if you know someone that's hurting right now or that's aching, this is a good place for them to be hanging out because it's filled with inspiration. And inspiration is something we can all use right now. I know it's making a difference in the way I feel, just being involved in all of this and experiencing the interviews and the talks. Everything that we're creating here is something that's very, very good. I think Christine Howard said activating. Let's activate that level of inspiration. So if you know somebody that might be having a tough day or a tough week or a tough time, now would be the day to reach out to them and say, this is going on. Maybe it will be helpful for them to tune in and be part of what we're dreaming here together. So I think I see Vanessa there.
Vanessa is with us. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
So I wanted to read a little quote before we started with Vanessa out of the Lead, Amazing Woman Lead, which is 99 cents, the Kindle version is. So if you head over to Amazon and look it up, you're able to get a copy, and we encourage you to do so. It's a powerful book. In the introduction, it says, from how we see things to how we do things, amazing women everywhere are transforming the culture of leadership. We are standing true to our voices and owning the power of our creativity as never before, bringing to the fore unique possibilities for innovating business, career, contribution, and meaning, calling forth our most inspired, purpose-driven, empowered lives. And so with that, we bring you Vanessa, and her chapter is The Essential Power to Master Your Purpose. In her introduction, she said, every person has their own innate capacity to become miracle-minded, giving them the abilities to regain their most vibrant health and well-being. Welcome to you, Vanessa.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, Vanessa, can I love the miracle-minded thought for right now, right today?
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for bringing that.
Yes.
So we're going to do an interview, Becky. So maybe if, Vanessa and I can cozy up here on live stream, even though you are in Pasadena and so am I, but we're miles away from each other.
Yes,
But we look like we're sitting right next to each other, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is such a beautiful event. Thank you so much.
Oh, my joy. Absolutely my joy. And especially to have you involved and bring your beauty to it. You just came back from India a few weeks ago, which is a rich story in itself. We should probably schedule an interview just to talk about that.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. But talk to me about Miracle Minded. I think it couldn't be a better conversation for today.
Yeah. So Miracle Minded, this idea stepped into my life many, many years ago. It starts off with small instances that you don't realize they're miracles yet. And then it got bigger and bigger. So when the bigger miracles came, that's when I realized I really didn't need proof for a lot of stuff. And that's when I started to just believe and trust. And once I went into that space, it just opened up so much. And so being miracle-minded is just being open to that's the natural state of being. And when we accept that as a state of being, then it welcomes a lot of that all day long. No matter how small, no matter how big, everything you see is a miracle. And that it just builds such a grand foundation for gratitude, which is part of being at peace. And this is what I learned. And this is what I want to share, because it is possible, but it's just learning to recognize and accept the little things that look like coincidences or things like that. They're actually little miracles in itself.
This is a weird question, but I'm going to ask it because it's just the way it's coming to me, is what qualifies a miracle to be a miracle? Is there a definition of a miracle? Or when you say everything's a miracle, talk to me a little more about that, because I find it very interesting.
So at first, you feel it in your body, and it's almost like an aha moment. That's what it feels like at first. And then you keep getting them. And then, they're going to keep knocking on your door until you realize, wait a minute, this is a natural way of being. The more I accept and step into that, the more it happens. And then you just become miracle-minded, because you know that the little things, just me sitting outside watching two doves in a nest, looking at them in all the midst of all this stuff going on, one leaves and comes back maybe 20 minutes later with a twig. So but this bird's continuing to build a nest. To me, I'm like, I was so fascinated. So to me, that brought joy. And to me, that's like a miracle of nature.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So it's the little things.
So to become miracle-minded,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the shifts that have to happen?
A lot of shifts, not necessarily a lot of shifts. It's more of stepping into, well, first of all, you're probably going to be forced into a situation that's going to make you change your perspective and your thought on life. You know, it's going to show up in different ways. And then when it's so heavy on one side, whether it's grief or whatever you're going through that just doesn't feel good, when something comes to balance it and you accept it as something that's balancing this feeling you're having, and it's balanced with comfort, love, and joy, then you start to feel a shift. You think, well, you have to be open to it though. You know, you start saying to yourself, well, you know what? There is a balance to this if I accept it. And then by the time you know it, you are so heavy in miracle-mindedness that you have a different reaction to what's going on the sides that are not so good. And you always know that something's going to work out. And so that's probably part of the shift, but it's a slow shift. It's not something that happens overnight. Because we have to as human beings, we have to constantly be reminded that it is a natural state of being. That's all. And that's how it shows up, like this and like this.
Yeah. That reminding feels to me like a stretching consciousness almost. It's almost like, okay, I've stretched this far, now I recognize it. And then I'm stretching a little bit further, but I forget it through the way. And so it just keeps stretching me into that miracle-mindedness state of being where it's, you know, one of my mentors said to me early in my career, I would say, oh my gosh, and this happened, or can you imagine that this happened? And she said, but of course. And that but of course to me said, but of course miracles are happening all the time. But of course your intention is clear and pure. But of course you're deserving of this experience. But of course good things are here for you. So that but of course is kind of the miracle-mindedness mantra. It said, but of course, I held intention, but of course it would come to me, but of course. So through this very challenging experience that we're moving through right now, how could we find some miracle-mindedness? Are there ways that you would guide us to maybe work our way to stretch into a new level of consciousness and the way we could see miracles even in the situations we're in today?
Yes, and I think actually people are experiencing it now. Even the simple fact that using fresh vegetables and fruit on a daily basis and having fresh meals is almost like a new concept to me every single day, like 3 times a day. So I think we're learning to, if we could learn to appreciate these things more and hopefully carry on what we're learning from this time past this time and practice it on a regular basis, we could really do so much more with less. We don't need all the excess that we have, and I think we're learning that. I'm learning to do things differently. We're going back to, like our own devices. We're going back into being resourceful. How can we adjust to the change? And we can adjust. And what comes out of it is, wow, I did that. Wow, did I just make like this? You're going into different spaces that you never explored before for whatever reason. So taking the time to listen to your body, because your body always reacts first. You're probably going to find more things nowadays that you love, because you're exposing yourself, you're opening up a different perspective, because we're like this, but we have to be open to different perspectives to know what we can take and what we can give back. So with that, that's when we start to balance everything. And yes, it's a little bit chaotic and scary right now. But just being mindful that with that, we're also learning this. And this is a huge knowledge
balance
base
that you spoke of earlier.
Yes. So that's a huge knowledge base for your spirit, for your body, and for your soul, because we have to learn how to remain calm. And even with all the chaos. So this is part of, just trusting, because part of Miracle Minded is just trusting, you know what, the last time this happened, it's going to happen again. And it's going to happen again. And that's how my experience has been. And by trusting myself, it just brings out so many other gifts. So you learn about yourself a lot. And it's very interesting times. But I think this can carry on beyond this time. And I'm hoping that it will.
So we can create new patterning.
Yes. New ways of thinking, new ways of doing things, being resourceful, appreciating, just being able to find an onion at the market, things like that. Just being able to adjust a little bit, bring a lot of more appreciation and gratitude into our heart. That's part of being miracle minded.
It's beautiful. Is there something that we could start our day out with? Is there a prayer? Is there a mantra? Is there a meditation? Is there a way of thinking that we choose to adopt before we put our feet on the floor and jump out of bed and go for it, to help us remember our miracle mindedness?
So what I've found that work, and what I always share with people, is that I pray and I meditate, and I've always said the same thing every single time I pray and meditate. It's in the same order and it's the same thing. And what I realize is that, so I've actually, not knowing, turned my prayer into a mantra. So once we have mantras and we keep saying the same things, it, over the course of how many years I've been doing this, it's actually, I think, embedded into my being, because it's my go-to, and it's a prayer of gratitude, and it's also a prayer. I pray for everybody, the universe, the cosmos. I pray for everybody and everything. And so once that's embedded, I'm noticing on the days that I don't, or I can't, or I forget, it's still in the works, because I will still see miracles that day. It's not going to go away. So if you can start your day, even with a small meditation, or even being grateful for whatever it is that you want to be grateful for, it's just a way of staying on your path, knowing that there is something out there other than this, and you begin to see it. It is real on the other side of all of this. It is
real. Becoming miracle minded, and then having something like we're experiencing now, have you found ways that you've had to stretch in order to stay true to your path on this? Have you found ways that you've gotten triggered, or you've forgotten and brought yourself back? What ways right now are you finding within yourself that you're growing? I spoke earlier about compassion is a big one for me right now. I can tell. Patience is, off the chart right now, because I'm doing something I've never done, and that's working with technology. And you would think I would have done it, but I've not. The fact is that I've not done technology until now. One of the few in the world left. It's not. I'm certainly on Facebook and social media, but not doing streaming. So patience is a big one for me right now. I've stretched in patience and compassion. What about you? Was there something that you found that there were some walls up that you've walked through that have deepened your miracle mindedness?
Yes, one thing that worries me a lot is that if my children were small, we'd be all in the same house. Okay, but we're not. My children are adults, and that is one of the hardest things for me to grasp, is that I almost feel a little bit helpless, and I feel like this thing is just creeping in every crevice. So I deal with that, and I just have to go back to center and remind myself, no, we're not going to go that way, and I'm not going to watch the news today, because I don't watch the news regularly. This is the most I've watched the news in 4 years. And by watching the news, I can actually feel my chest sink in, almost like anxiety. So I stop. I stopped from doing that. So I find myself just saying, I need to know what I need to know, and I don't need to know the rest right now. Because
So it's about really being mindful about where you place your attention, where you invest your thoughts, what energy you let in, being incredibly mindful. I think it's very easy to forget, don't you imagine, that how powerful we are as energetic beings, and we're swimming in energy. And if we start to hang out in a vast amount of energy that leans us in the direction of negativity, because we're energetic beings, we become that very quickly. We adapt to that energy very quickly. I know it's good to talk our way through some of this, but it's also good to be very mindful about how much we're talking our way through it, and rehashing the same. I heard a coach say the other day, somebody I really respect said, I think we've talked enough about what's happening. Now let's talk about what are we going to do to invest our time in a really positive, empowered way. And I like that idea. Yes. If there were one thing that you would leave with everyone that's tuned in right now and beyond, what would you say? What would you leave us with when it comes to the practice of miracle-mindedness?
The one thing I would say is that you definitely, when you start seeing a string of stuff that just impacts you in such a way, really hone in and savor that and be grateful for it, because then you're going to start noticing more things. But you need to just trust. So a lot of it has to do with trust. A lot of it has to do with where you're focusing, when to know how to change the channel. And that all comes, with intuitive work. If you're watching something or hearing something and it's bothering you, you need to change the channel, whether it's a person, whatever it is, and allow for the miracles to make its way to you, and be open to it, because every day, our whole body is a miracle in itself. Just the functions that it does in a human body. So if we could just switch the channel and make sure that whatever we're seeing in our mind and allowing to listen to and see, this is what we're actually feeding our whole body. And we will feel it. So when we are on a path of feeling good and feeling blessed and feeling safe and feeling calm, then that in itself is a balancing act and the miracle-minded coming over in full force. But you need to feel it and you need to accept it. That's the only thing.
I've used the word responsibility a lot today, which is not a word that's easy. It doesn't land on us very well most of the time, the word responsible. But the fact is that that's how powerful we are, that when we're responsible to where we put our attention, where we invest our energy, what we allow into our world, or at least our focus.
Yes.
Then when we're responsible to that, we can experience that miracle-mindedness in a bigger way, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, because when we take in everything that is all of goodness and all of happiness, we are then speaking it through a higher vibration when it comes out of our mouth. So we want. Yeah.
Before I let you go, I want to talk to you about your chapter in the book, because we've been talking about miracle-mindedness, which is very important. And I know you have a new course that's being developed that we're going to be offering very soon through the Amazing Woman Nation about miracle-mindedness. So I'm excited to have this on recorded. But your story in the book and finding your path as a natural, innate healer seems very pertinent and very important for where we are today. Yeah. Because I come from the place, and I think you do too, is that we all have the ability. There is an inner healer within all of us. But you finding yours and allowing that to show up in such grace-filled ways that impact so many people's lives. I mean, hundreds of people that you've worked with. Tell me the most challenging part of your story, and tell me the most empowering part of your story.
I think the most challenging part was, when we go back to purpose, as children, we don't look at it as purpose, as things as purpose. We look at it as our dream job. What do you want to be when you grow up, right? We're in a dream state of being, so that's where we go. And growing up, I think because of all the challenges I had, I really never really stopped to think about what my purpose was. And I think, you know, and I don't even know when I began to ask the question. I was probably an adult by then, because things were starting to like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing something. I started questioning it because I saw this huge pattern of challenge 1, challenge 2, you know, throughout your whole childhood, teenage, you know, the whole thing. You start looking at it. And, you know, that was the most challenging part, is just having to live most of my life through all the challenges before I was able to ask the question, well, now what? You know, like I said, that I was.
Now, the question, now what, was that in relation to my purpose? Is that now what is all this?
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. You know, now what? You know, or what is my purpose? So then it became very clear. The stretch part probably for me was realizing that I also had to go through a really, really bad sickness. A bad sickness where I thought I was going to die. That was going to be like the last straw where I thought I was going to die. And then everything opened up after all. That is when I realized, oh my gosh, all of that had to take place for this to happen.
Yeah, it's almost like an embodiment, or a, we could, you know, rebirth is used a lot, but sometimes when we go through those, and this is when I met you too, by the way, it's during the exact same time.
Exactly.
I actually met you the night you became sick.
Yes.
And witnessed you going through, and witnessed you coming to the other side of that. And we don't wish that kind of thing for anyone.
No.
But sometimes, for one reason or another, and I don't know that we would ever know, but there's like a stretching, a letting go, or a rebirth, a fuller embodiment. Mm-hmm. I have my own stories about my own experiences with health. I won't go into those today because I want to focus on what was the positive that came from that.
You know, the positive for me is that I'm able to understand a lot of different situations and circumstances, and it's allowed me to have so much patience. Okay, and an understanding. Okay. That happens. You know, to help even to help the people I work with even deeper, on a deeper level than just energetically on the table, you know, or just I'm able to understand a little bit more. So those experiences have helped me to help others with similar experiences.
So, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
They honestly think talking about my health brought up energy. No, I'm serious. I do. I think it's like whenever I talk about different challenges, sometimes it's in my throat. My throat chakra was, I think, one of my best, and I'm sitting in the presence of an empowered healer here, very powerful energy healer.
I'm releasing too.
But it's something that's good to talk about, because when I bring it up, my throat chakra is what I lived through, right? I'm a communicator. Yeah. And I love to communicate. I love to feel, and I love to find the words that I'm feeling to communicate it. Use written word. I, work with people to find their messages, to find their purpose. I do all of that. But what's interesting is whenever I dive deep into something that is wanting to come up and be healed. So in this case, I was talking about my own illnesses, right? Mm-hmm. And the minute I said it, it's almost like an energy came up that said, love your way through this, Marsh. Yeah. Find a renewed relationship with that experience of, and can you hear my voice coming back? It's almost like witnessing the integration of a new level of understanding. It's amazing to me that when we pay attention, when we really notice what's going on in our body and we value, I could have easily said I swallowed wrong or I brought in air too fast or something. But the fact is I could feel like what felt like a dust particle in my throat.
Yeah.
That was catching, that wanted to take my voice, right? And I just found my way through it. But I found my way through it by acknowledging where the source was coming from. And I feel that, so the first question I asked myself was, what was I talking about when I choked?
Exactly.
What am I choking myself up on? And I asked myself that question, and that's when I came to the clarity. It's almost processing on camera here.
Yeah. That's how it works.
What healing is. But
exactly. I mean, a lot of it happens on the table, but then a lot of it's like this.
It's very important to notice, just like what you've said, what's going on in our body right now. Acknowledge what's going on in our body.
Yes.
Honor what's going on in our body, and ask our body to tell us. It was as simple, just then, it was as simple as me saying, what was I talking about when I choked myself up? When I wanted to choke, when I choked.
Yes.
And it was my health. And that wants to be healed.
Yes. Yes.
So healing it then allowed my voice to come back.
That's all you have to do. Yes. That's the acknowledgement. That's being accepting and being open to the process. And that's amazing.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful experience. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all that you do, which is beyond words. I say, go connect with Vanessa. Connect with her on Facebook. She's filled with wisdom, filled with love. And I'm so grateful that you're in my life and that you're in this book and you're part of this day.
Thank you. Everything is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to see you soon. I hope. If not online, on the phone.
Of course.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.